Here is what last week's earthquake did to Southern California. And had that 7.1 quake hit less than 200 miles northwest, where 2 atomic reactors, our next guest calls cracked, embrittled, undermaintained, underregulated, uninsured, and uninspected, the likely human death toll could be in the millions. He is journalist and author Harvey Wasserman. Harvey, welcome back.
Well, great to be back with you. Thank you so much, although I wish we had a happier topic to talk about.
You know, you were a guest on my very first show here on RT America 2 years ago, and back then, you were calling these nuke plants time bombs. Describe the real-life China syndrome if that earthquake had been just a couple hundred miles away from where it was.
Well, it's unimaginable. You and I talked in LA last time. In Los Angeles right now would be under a radioactive cloud that would be threatening the lives of 10 million people and absolutely devastating the national economy, and certainly that of Los Angeles, as well as the Central Valley, where we get so much of our food. It's completely irresponsible that these nuclear reactors continue to operate. They cannot withstand an earthquake the size that we just had less than 200 miles away. It was a 7.1 Richter scale. There's no way that the Diablo Canyon nuclear reactors would still be standing if a 7.1 hit within a couple of miles, and those 2 reactors are surrounded by earthquake faults. I want to challenge Governor Gavin Newsom to inspect these atomic reactors. This is just completely irresponsible. 10 million people are downwind from these 2 plants. They would be radioactive rubble right now if that earthquake had hit closer to Diablo Canyon.
After now bankrupt Pacific Gas and Electric's poorly maintained gas lines blew up in San Bruno, killing 8, and their poorly maintained power lines were blamed for torching much of Northern California in those wildfires last year, killing some 80 people, incinerating 10,000 buildings. How is it that this company is permitted to continue operating these ancient nuke plants surrounded by the fault lines you've described? Where's the Nuclear Regulatory Commission?
The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is basically a Soviet agency. I mean, they don't respond to the public. They don't care about the public health. They merely care about keeping atomic reactors going. The NRC staff did a survey after Fukushima and came to the NRC commissioners with a laundry list of things that needed to be updated in American reactors, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission blew it off, said don't even do it. We have a situation in California where Diablo Canyon is extremely embrittled, it's cracked, it's badly maintained, they can't handle their nuclear waste. The NRC's own site inspector said that the nuclear reactors at Diablo Canyon cannot withstand a credible earthquake. I mean, this is an incredible risk that's being taken with the entire state of California, 10 million people, the whole Central Valley. Governor Newsom needs to step in here and have these reactors inspected. They're scheduled to close in 2024 and 2025, but what happens in the meantime? Who can tell us exactly when the San Andreas Fault is going to go off? It's less than 50 miles away from Diablo Canyon. There is absolutely no doubt that if that earthquake, that 7 earthquake, had hit not in China Lake, but in San Luis Obispo, all the news now would be about the radioactive cloud heading into Los Angeles. And if you want to get a taste of it, you might want to look at the HBO series on Chernobyl, which is astounding. And, you know, they said it couldn't happen at Chernobyl, and of course it did. We've now had 4 American reactors blow up at Fukushima. We have a reactor in Ohio that was just threatened by an earthquake 20 miles away, a 4.0 at the Perry nuclear plant. The number 1 threat to the future of the human race is the 440 commercial atomic reactors that are burning at 300 degrees centigrade all over the world.
300 degrees centigrade. Hey, Harvey, I got a piece of news tape I want you to listen to. Give a listen.
Please.
Now, 5 high-tech windmills 3 miles offshore generate enough power for thousands of homes, even though there are only several hundred on our 12-square-mile island. So our green energy feeds the grid. That's a piece of the show that we were on a couple of years ago, and that is where I live, Block Island, Rhode Island. We have the USA's first offshore wind farm. Just 5 windmills generate enough power for 17,000 homes. Even though our tiny island only has several hundred, thousands of windmills survived when Hurricane Harvey hit Texas. And windmills off Puerto Rico survived Maria, and renewable energy is the #1 job growth sector. So given the dangers you cite, what's the holdup ditching nukes for renewables?
The utility companies have too much money, and they bribe officials and they buy legislatures. Here in Ohio, they're buying the legislature to get a $150 million a year bailout to run 2 nuclear reactors that are incredibly dangerous. And that utility, First Energy, is also in bankruptcy. So we need the governors, DeWine in Ohio and Newsom in California, to inspect these reactors. We cannot trust the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It's a completely corrupt agency. And as you say, the wind energy and the solar and the batteries and the increased efficiency, they are all coming on. In California, we don't need the nuclear reactors. They could shut tomorrow,
sure,
and the grid would be better off. And the same is true here in Ohio, where they've been stopping wind power for a decade.
Yep.
So these nuclear reactors stand in the way of our economic future. They cause global warming. All nuclear reactors emit heat, radiation, and carbon. They all need to shut immediately before we have another Chernobyl, which you can see very realistically on the Chernobyl series.
Sure.
And then Fukushima. Fukushima is now poisoning the Pacific Ocean 8 years after the accident happened.
And also, Harvey, as a practical matter, what ought to motivate these governors about renewables is jobs. Harvey Wasserman, thank you again for joining us on The Big Picture.
Hey, it's an honor, and you're right, the jobs are with renewables. Let's do it now. Thank you so much.
I'm Larry King, questioning, listening, learning. You know, I've always said I never learned anything when I was talking. It's important to listen. Question more.